Okay.
What are we doing again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, what is this? Okay. It is May 3rd, 2018. I'm Micah Sargent, and right now we are going to talk about the Oculus Go, a new fun lens kit from Olloclip for the iPhone X, the T-Mobile and Sprint merger, MacBook Air maybe being pushed back. There is so much to talk about because this is the iMore show. And and joining me this week is, again, the one and only, the cornerstone of the iMore show. It's Lori Gill. What up, Lori?
How's it going? I'm a little bit sad right now because I was hoping that my Oculus Go would be in my hands right now. I had this great idea that as soon as I met you on screen, I would just be wearing them. That's
and
it.
I would just be crying into the camera because of jealousy.
But shipping has thwarted my joy, so I'm still waiting on it. We even postponed this show recording by 2 hours because I thought there's a chance. My shipping schedule from Amazon is either sometime around 10 or late at night.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. See, so whenever it's like UPS either comes around 9 a.m. or it's late. It's like 5. There's no in between, no happy medium.
No, I'll be waiting. In fact, I have something to do tonight, and I probably will be pushing back what I go to do because I'm waiting for that stupid thing to show up.
I need it. I understand. So why don't you tell everybody sort of, I mean, if anyone out there doesn't know, what's the Oculus Go? Why did you decide to get this? Why is Micah so jealous about it? Oh, wait, that's me. Why am I so jealous about it? Everything we need to know about Oculus Go. Go.
Okay. Oculus Go is a standalone virtual reality headset. That means it doesn't require you to plug it into any computer. It doesn't require, actually, let me make that clear. It doesn't require a phone to use, but you do need to have a phone to set it up. Okay. I had noticed on the Amazon review page, somebody was saying like that, they should have clarified that. It is actually written on the Amazon page, but it's true. I don't go buying, Nintendo Switch or PlayStation 4 and then making sure that I have a phone that is compatible with it. So it should be a little more clear. So it's a standalone VR headset that does not require any kind of secondary device in order to use, but you do need a compatible iPhone or Android device in order to set it up. So just in case you're
pro tip out there.
Yeah. Just in case you don't have a smartphone and you're listening to this.
Phone and you're somehow listening to the iMore show. First of all, send us an email and let us know what phone you're using because I'm curious. Yeah. But secondly, there you go. Now you'll have to borrow a friend's phone.
Just to set it up. Yeah. So it has all of the same, or it has many of the same contents that the Gear VR has. Oculus actually had described it when I was at GDC and they had their keynote about it. They described it as pretty much the Gear VR, but with the guts of the Samsung or the Samsung Galaxy phone that it's compatible with, which I can't remember which one it is. But the guts are in the device instead of you needing a separate phone.
You just sticking a phone into it.
Yeah. So the brilliance of this is you don't have to have a phone. You don't have to have a separate device that requires battery charging. You don't have to worry about getting tweets while you're, watching something on Netflix or something like that. It's its own operating system built into the headset. Nothing is separate. It's all self-contained, which is exactly what I was so excited about. I don't own any VR hardware right now. The only thing I have is Google Cardboard. So like that's my AR experience. That's it. So for $200, you can take your first step into virtual reality. And there's lots and lots of games and apps already available for Oculus Go. And it's mostly because they were originally available for Gear VR and they've just been sort of positioned in the Oculus Go. And in fact, I wish Russell were here to describe this a little bit better. I'm not sure, but it might be that they are just fully compatible and that developers didn't even need to do anything to make them compatible with both. I'm not totally sure, but the app that comes with, or that you can download onto your phone right now, even without the Oculus Go headset, it already has dozens of games and even games that are reviewed. And in it, people are talking about Gear VR with it. So it leads me to believe that it's the same app that you can just use it on the go. So
One of the things that I'm curious about is the display or displays or however that works. Is it better than just like did they take extra work in making the displays, made for virtual reality? Because that's one of the main things that is sort of an issue between an actual full-on Oculus or Vive versus sticking your phone onto on your face and doing that. Is like you can see some pixels and things like that. So is this made a little bit better in that sense?
Yeah, in fact, another thing that Oculus talked about at the GDC keynote is that they've actually not only is Oculus Go just specifically designed for VR, not just a flat phone, but they've improved the it's 3 DOF degrees of freedom. They've improved it for Oculus Go so that it's even better than what you can use with the Gear VR. So yeah, it's specially designed to be used as a it doesn't sort of blur out the edges. You can see everything much
Oh,
clearer, so that
very cool.
when you start to move from one side to another to look at your 360-degree visual, it's specifically worked out so that those top corners don't look pixelated or blurred out. So
Awesome.
yeah, so it's going to be a much better experience, definitely, than just any sort of AR style headset. And it is going to be a little bit better than Gear VR, just because it's the software built into the Oculus Go has just that little bit of extra oomph to really make things clear and smoother running and better for you. So yeah,
And I
this
saw
is
Oh, I saw the on the page that they are working on prescription lenses. Like you can get your prescription lenses popped into the Oculus Go, which I think is just brilliant.
especially because people who wear glasses are like they've suffered the short end of the stick when it comes to any kind of technology that allows you to see something different. Sunglasses or glasses that you wear when you go to a 3D movie, VR
Right. Yeah.
experiences, that they're all they oftentimes take it into consideration, but it's never a super comfortable experience. I have a friend who wears glasses and she just won't go to see 3D movies because even though newer 3D glasses have been better designed for use with your glasses, they're still not comfortable. They still slide off, or they just make your vision a little wonky because the way they're set up on your glasses. So being able to actually just pop your subscription lenses right into the Gear VR so that you're not actually wearing glasses at all while you're playing seems like a really great way to solve that problem. So there's no, smashing of the frame onto your face or anything like that.
Exactly. And in the
Yeah,
meantime, they've got a little spacer that you can pop in there so that you can use your glasses. But
right.
I certainly like the idea of, one day, because for me, it's not a problem because I'm fine seeing up close. It's far away things that are an issue. And so I'll be able to take my glasses off and just, do the do. But for people who do have trouble seeing things up close, I'm glad that they are working on that. And apparently they're going to be coming out with more accessories. And I don't even just trying to think of what those different things could be is kind of fun.
Yeah, they're probably going to do some controller accessories. I have a feeling there's going to be some fun, like remote wheels or something like that, so that when you're playing
Ah,
racing games, you actually have your little wheel that
that
you
would
can
be
use. So
fun.
yeah, yeah, it is going to be a lot of fun. I look forward to kind of delving into it, and I definitely can say that because it's an entry level headset.
Mhm.
So if I end up liking it and I don't get nauseous, because I am a person who gets
Me
motion
too.
sickness while I'm playing VR. I definitely do. It's very troubling and confusing and makes me a little sick to my stomach. So if I can handle the entry level headset, then I'll know for sure that I'm willing to spend the $200 extra to get the Rift, or maybe a few years from now there's even something more advanced that I'd be interested in. But I can afford $200 to find out whether or not I really want to spend a lot of time in it. The great thing that I realized, and Russell Holly was talking with me about, the app store where you download apps and games for your VR headset for Oculus. I'm not sure how all of them are. I just know how that one works. They have a little rating next to it. So your comfort level could be comfortable, moderate, or intense, I believe, are the three options. So if you're like me and you know that you get motion sickness and you come across a game or app that has intense as the comfort level, you know to avoid that because that's probably going to make you nauseous. So don't try it. Whereas the ones that are in the comfortable set, you know, you can play this game. It's not going to make you nauseous. You're not going to, or you're not as likely to be nauseous. I mean, honestly, it's going to be different for everyone. But one thing that I did notice when I tested the Oculus Go when I was at GDC is that the games that they had us testing, I did not feel motion sickness from it. So I know that I am capable of handling certain levels of it. So. Yeah.
Yeah. And forgive me if you've said this, but I know that there are two options, two different purchase prices for it. And which one did you decide to go with?
So I went with the 64 gig. So that's $50 more expensive. The 32 gig model of Oculus Go is $199, and the 64 gig model is $249. And I went with the higher price one because there's no separate storage container for it. There's no micro SD card you can pop in. And from experience with games and apps on iPhone and iPad, I will hit 64 gigs real fast. So 32 gigs would be a waste. So I went with the extra $50 for the extra gigs. And I do recommend anyone just spend the extra $50. It's worth it. Because it currently does not come with any way of having an external, actually, now that I think about it, I don't know the details about how you download the games. It's possible that you could just keep them purchased in a cloud-based storage that you don't, like the way your phone games, like you can buy them, but you don't have to keep them on your phone. So it's very possible that you can keep them stored, but not downloaded onto your device. A lot of game companies, especially ones that are mobile, they do that now. So on Switch, for example, you don't have to have 600 gigs. You don't have to have that SD card in there if you don't want to, because you can just remove them from your device, but you still own them and you can just download them at any time. So it's possible that that's the case, though I don't know that for sure. I'll have more information on that.
It'll probably be a bigger issue for folks who are doing more content, like being more interested in media content rather than gaming, because typically, I think if you're going through and you're playing a game, you get like 3 or 4 games, and a lot of that stuff, depending, can be loaded dynamically, and it's based on algorithms or whatever it generates on its own. But with content, like if you want to go through the ocean and swim with the whales, that's a lot of video footage. Those are big files, and because it's VR, like they're even bigger files. And so if you have, you're on the subway, I guess, and you want to spend 30 of your minutes swimming with the whales and then 30 of your minutes going through like a war zone, that's a lot of content. And so you may end up, wanting to go with the bigger size. So regardless of whether there's more that's stored in the cloud, like what you have on your device at one time, I think is going to be the difference between the smaller and the larger size.
Yeah, definitely. So get the larger one. It's only $50 more. If you're willing to spend $200, you should be willing to spend $250.
Go all in. Well, unfortunately, you don't have it yet, but hopefully, once you do get it, we'll be able to talk about it more. But do you have any other thoughts that you want to share about the Oculus Go?
Not at the moment, because I don't know what it's going to be like. Other than I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited for the kind of things that I'll be able to test out in it. There's some great apps already out there. Like Discovery Channel has an app that lets you kind of, go on a whaling adventure, for example, or you can go out and watch the whales.
Yeah, that's watching whales, not killing whales.
Not killing them, sorry, not that kind of whaling. So yeah, there's a lot to experience. And next week, I will have had a whole week with it, so we can talk about it again then.
That's when the moment of truth will come, when Micah has to make the decision of whether he's also going to get an Oculus Go. So I'm terrified and excited to look back at that. Okay.
Let's talk about photography on your iPhone and the fun things
Yeah.
that can be done with it.
Yeah, so a lot of people, and this is all building up to it right now. I'm removing my case from my iPhone 10.
You're drawing it out, right?
Yes. So, a lot of people talk about the awesomeness that is the iPhone 10 camera. It is a very, very good camera. It's a dual lens system and it, can take really great photographs. But some people, they may like, this may be their camera. This is the thing that they shoot with all the time, and maybe they want to augment it. Well, Clip is one of the companies that does uh, offer these accessories for augmenting your lens, for making it widescreen or fisheye or macro or a telephoto. You could even take the telephoto lens that's already built into the iPhone and make it even better. But they hadn't come out with one for the iPhone 10 yet, partially because it is a very unique design that is a little more complicated to figure out. Well, I am proud to reveal that the Clip team or Clip team has come out with a lens kit for the iPhone 10, and they're just like, they're so on it. I want to meet their product designers, because this is something where you can kind of look at it and go, how are you going to pull this off? Like, what's the way to make this happen? And they figure it out every time. So you can see there's it's kind of difficult, but there's, for anyone who's watching instead of listening, there's a little ridge on your iPhone 10 camera, and the Clip has a button on the back, and it's a metal button. And when you press it, it expands the actual clip, and then you move it down and you literally just clip it on and it snaps into place. So it goes right over the lens system and snaps into place. And I'm
That
having trouble
was
here, of course.
super fast, super easy, super quick. That's brilliant. You didn't have to put a special case on it. You just clipped right over it. And because of the iPhone 10 camera ridge, the little button that spaces it out, that's brilliant.
Yes. So now on the back of my camera, I've got a fisheye lens on there. And on the front of my camera, let me see if I can turn on the camera here again for people who are watching. And then for the front, there's a fisheye view of
Oh,
me.
that's
Haha.
great.
And then on the front of the camera is the wide angle lens. And the great thing is it's actually lined up with your front facing camera. So they're both lined up perfectly to be able to, and let me do this again. Here, we'll switch this around. So it's a front facing. And now you can see sort of it looking at you, looking back at me, looking at you,
Yeah, yeah.
with the same thing. So in and of itself, it's very cool. But one of the things that people were sort of concerned about is, okay, I've got an iPhone 10. We don't get to use our finger anymore to open up our phone, to unlock our phone. Well, Clip's design team thought of that as well. And the very neat thing is that along with the ones that ship with the device, which again are a wide angle and a fisheye lens, or super wide angle and a fisheye lens, these are, you can buy more, and you simply just, there's a little switch here, and so I press this switch and the lens comes right off. Now my Face ID thing is exposed. I can unlock my phone just fine. Everything's there. The dot sensor, the projector, all of that's available. And I can also then, if I wanted to, without removing the frame, I can essentially swap in different lenses that I want to swap in, or just take
That
photos with
is
the normal
great. So
camera.
you twisted it off, or is
So
there a button?
there's a little button that presses, and it's, again, very hard to see, but it sort of depresses down, and then the little ridge that pops into place comes undone. So I think that their product design team is quite brilliant. And, regardless of whether this is something that you'd want to use on the daily, there's just some sort of delight involved in this. And then the one other thing that I want to touch on before we sort of just talk about these, lenses in general, is that they always come with something that you can kind of clip your lenses into when they're not hooked onto something. So you could like wear it as a lanyard or put it on your belt loop. Well, this time around, the product design team created a tripod with that thing. And so you can actually put your phone there's little areas to put your phone into so that you can sort of use it as a tripod and snap and take photos with it.
Okay,
So
they
they've
just
thought
won
of
me over.
everything. Yeah, right? They just thought
Wow.
of everything.
Yeah.
So and I'm gonna head to the website here so that I can talk about some of the other lenses. They do also have a case for the iPhone that works with these lens kits. So if you're wanting to make sure, I don't know if you're doing like nature photography in the Safari with your iPhone 10, you don't want it to drop and break or something, then you can use one of their cases to fit along with it. But if you don't have one of their cases, then you do have to take off your iPhone 10. So the base system here, let's see, their case is only $30. That works with the iPhone 10, and it's a slim case that sort of goes. It's like a bumper. It goes around the edges of your iPhone to provide that sort of drop ready
But
protection.
the case is definitely not necessary to use with the kit, right? It's really
No,
just if you want a little extra protection.
yeah, if you
It's
want protection,
it's
then that's what you
specifically
use.
designed to fit the Olo clip, but it's not necessary to use with the Olo clip.
Correct. So the
Okay.
the mobile photography box set, that's the one that I just showed you that comes with the super wide angle lens and the fisheye lens that turns into a 15x macro is $99.99. And again, that also comes with the tripod that I mentioned before. So for $99.99, you get three lenses: the super wide, the macro, and the fisheye. But by getting that $99.99, then you open yourself up to having other lenses that you can swap in as well. So they have a an ultra wide lens. So instead of super wide, I think ultra wide is um oh goodness, I can't remember, but one is less wide and one is even more wide. And then also, as I mentioned, they have a telephoto 2x lens. And so what that does is you can use it on your bigger camera on the iPhone 10 on the dual lens system, or you can use it on the telephoto lens on the dual lens system to go even farther zoomed in. And it's a 2x telephoto lens. um and the one thing that I forgot to mention is, how I said that these lenses clip in and then clip out so you can swap them. Well, you can also turn it around and use it with the telephoto lens on the iPhone 10. So along with using the normal lens on your iPhone 10, you can telephoto super wide and telephoto fisheye and telephoto macro if you wanted to as well. So again, they just have thought of everything, and I think that's what makes this new kit very cool. Because when the iPhone 10 first came out, I was like, I really like Olo Clips lenses, and I wish that there was one for iPhone 10. And I think I've done now. It's always this funny thing where I'm like, I want to see what this looks like up. I love macro. And I was like, I want to see what this looks like up close. And then I'll share it with our little group message. And then Serenity's like, make that into an article right now. And that's happened to be like 3 or 4 times. And that is by the grace of Olo Clip that has always happened. Their lenses are great macro lenses. So I'm excited to see what I can do with iPhone 10 in this 15x macro. One last shout out, and then I promise I'll stop talking about Olo Clip. I just want to shout out their PR team because, in fact, I'm going to disappear for a second so I can grab the press kit because it's so funny. They sent me the press kit, and this is an SD card. So there's the scale. This is an SD card. They printed the entire press kit on this SD card. And then they have instructions basically to use the macro lens to read the press kit. And of course, it's on the SD card as well. So it's not like impossible, but I just thought that was pretty adorable.
Yeah.
And I did. I plugged it in, or put it on my phone and set the 15x macro up, and I could read the whole thing. And it's just, I think that's very clever.
So that you actually looked at it. Did you view that SD card in live view, or did you take a picture of it and then
just
read
in
that?
live view. Just in live view. In fact, let me
That's
see.
great, because that's like a little bit of a magnifying glass for people who have trouble
That
reading
is
things that are
exact-
small. So
Yes.
it's useful for more than just photography.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a pretty doggone powerful lens, and so for some things it's gonna be too far zoomed in. But let me just see here in live view if I can't do some awesome action here for you to see. So I'm gonna hold up my phone, but I'm trying to hold on one second. So here we go. We're dragging this down. And again, this is just for the video viewers. And I'm sure our editor will take care to make sure that this doesn't end up being too much of an issue. But Lori, can you kind of see there the text on the screen?
Yeah, it's fading a little. It's unfocusing a little, but I get it that when
Yeah, when it's so yeah, it's hard to sort of hold everything up.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can literally read
Yes,
this
yes.
very, very, very tiny text, and I just thought that was a brilliant idea, and it shows off the power of their little macro lenses that they have. So the lenses, I mean, they're made of metal. They everything locks in really nicely, and again, like just that push button idea. That I mean, it really is a clip. You clip it onto your phone. So just I think bravo all around. If you are a person who does iPhone photography and maybe you want to do like video on your iPhone or something like that, that's one of the main ways that this is awesome, because anytime you'll notice if you turn on video, the phone is going to zoom in a little bit. And that's because of the stabilization feature. It keeps it cropped so that it can use the edges of the actual recorded footage to crop it in and do a better job of stabilizing your footage. But if you go ahead and clip your ultra wide lens on there, then the crop is even farther out. And so you get more into your shot. So there are many reasons why you might want something like this, besides just this is so cool and they're so brilliant.
Talk a little bit about the quality of the photographs. I've used some cheaper versions of phone lens kits, and there tends to be sort of the black edges around, or the photo itself kind of gets a little extra grainy.
Yeah.
And I know that Oloclips lenses don't do that. I have the 4-in-1 kit for the SE, so I know the quality is much better. So talk a little bit about that, because it sounds like you have much better experience with it.
Absolutely. So one of the things that you'll find the difference between these more premium products and less premium products is the quality of the lenses. The lenses have to be cut. They have to be super clear. They have to be made of the right minerals, and the right minerals cost more money. And then they have to all be brought together very precisely. And then they have to be strong and resilient over time. And any of those things going wrong results in a blurry photo or a grainy photo, or any number of issues. Well, that is, again, that's fixed with this more premium product. I mean, it's $100, and that's no small price. But if you want something that you is genuinely going to work, and you can count on it taking great photos, then that is what you're going to get. That said, it's important to note that with something like fisheye, the blurriness around the edges is part of the design of fisheye. Like that is, that's something that you want to get. And I know you know that, Lori, but just for anybody out there, maybe like if you thought that, you maybe you've taken fisheye before with a camera and you saw the blur, you thought, oh, this must be a bad lens. No, that's part of the design. That's the look of fisheye. That's how it's supposed to be. But with ultra wide and things like that, yeah, you'll often see vignetting when you have lower quality lenses. And these are top quality glass, top quality minerals, and precise engineering to make sure that those all come together and make for a great lens kit. And all of that is doubly true when it comes to macro photography, because of I mean, you could see, for anyone who is watching, the difference between like a tenth of a centimeter for trying to move that little bitty press kit makes a difference in how blurry it is. And so if you have a crummy macro lens, you're not going to see anything at all.
Yeah, I have had that too. I've tested some of the cheaper ones and ended up just disappointed that I even spent the money on it. So yeah.
That is the Oloclip lens clip. That is the Oloclip lens kit for iPhone 10. It's $99.99, and they have extra lenses that you can purchase and a case as well. Right there on Oloclip's website, we'll include a link. And in fact, I'm going to do a little hands-on with it and talk about it. So
I would love to see some of the pictures that you take with the HoloLens. I'm excited to see the differences between the already fantastic iPhone 10 camera and then adding the fantastic Oloclip lenses on top of that. It's going to be pretty great.
Yes. Okay, let's see. Before we move on, I would like to tell everyone And Lori, prepare your internets because I want to tell everybody about our friends at Thrifter. So you all know Thrifter now. It is the best way to save money on everything from gadgets to home goods by shopping based on value and not hype. It means you're getting the best deals, not those fake deals that don't actually count for anything. If you sign up at thrifter.com, you're going to get thoughtfully selected tech deals from places like Amazon and Best Buy daily. It's all the stuff, none of the fluff at thrifter.com. Lori is heading to thrifter.com. She's going to pick out a deal for us and tell us all about it. And hopefully you will, be able to hold yourself back because you've got an Oculus Go on the way and not.
There are so many deals right now. So right now, this is kind of a big deal. The Super Nintendo Classic Edition, Super NES Classic Edition, is actually back in stock. So by the time you hear this, it's probably not going to be in stock anymore. But that's an example of Thrifter's ability to not only catch deals, but to actually let us know when things that are normally out of stock are back in stock. So you can go buy it and be one of the lucky few in your neighborhood that has it. But for picking something that you could maybe actually participate in right now, I'm going to recommend the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them original screenplay. I own this on as a digital book, and so I've read it already, and it's fantastic. It's originally priced at $15, and right now you can get it for only $4. And the fun thing about reading these screenplays is there is always additional information in them that wasn't in the movie. So it's not any sort of revealing or amazing thing that makes you completely understand when you didn't before, but it's a fun little sneak peek into the world a little bit better. And if you're a fan of Harry Potter, if you're a fan of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, $4 is a very small price to play to read the screenplay, and it's a lot of fun. And there are a little bits of additional information that pop up in it that will kind of just make you giggle.
Excellent. So that's going to be the place to go. It is thrifter.com to find awesome deals, everything from gadgets to home goods, and you're shopping based on value and not hype. All the stuff, none of the fluff at thrifter.com. Go there, sign up, and get excited for saving money. Thank you to Thrifter for sponsoring this episode of the iMore Show. Speaking of not saving money, that makes no sense. I am curious about two big old companies that decided to buddy up.
Yeah. So did you watch the video? T-Mobile and Sprint are coming together. They're going to join together to make one company that's going to supposedly change the world of 5G. I think they're calling it the new T-Mobile, which is really kind of sad for Sprint. It seems big. It seems exciting. I think they still have to get permission to make the merger so that it's kind of like possibly falling within the realm of a monopoly. So they have to kind of get the US regulation to make sure that that's okay, that these two companies are coming together. I don't have Sprint or T-Mobile, so I'm not exactly sure what this means, how this is going to work, how this is going to feel for everybody. I am part of one of the major carriers, but what I think is pretty brilliant about this is these are two smaller companies that are floundering in the face of the bigger cellular carriers. Mm-hmm. And what better way to make sure they don't die out than to just come together and use both of their technologies to further advance what they can do. So for T-Mobile and Sprint users, I'm not sure how they're going to merge your accounts, but I think it's going to be amazing and fantastic. I don't think there's any reason for those people to stop using their services, because all they're trying to do, all they're planning to do is create a stronger, better cellular network using 5G, something that they can't do separately, but they can do together. So it seems like a really great idea on their part, right?
Yeah, I agree. One of the things that stopped this from going around the first time, and as anytime it's ever come up in the past, is people screaming about how it's anti-competitive and things like that. And I don't see it as that. I think, Laura, you've hit the nail on the head there with AT&T and T and Verizon, especially being these two huge companies that are sort of, we've seen it in the past. Like T-Mobile does all of these great deals and does all of this fun stuff. And yet AT&T and T and Verizon most of the time don't have to react to that. They can keep on doing what they're doing. And so if in capitalism, the idea is companies competing against each other, and that makes things better for consumers in terms of both pricing and features. Well, if you're big enough and you don't have enough of a competition, then it doesn't really matter what others are doing. You can still keep doing what you're doing and not be the best that you possibly can be. And so by T-Mobile and Sprint merging, I think that puts them more in line to be an actual competitor and actually get AT&T and Verizon to listen up and make changes. So I see this as being a thing that's going to be better for everyone, not just for T-Mobile and Sprint merging. Excuse me, merging. And that, there of course there are concerns and there are reasons that this didn't go forth in the past and why it's finally working out. But I feel pretty positive about the whole thing. And as you said too, like it doesn't, the only way that I think it affects me is by making my service less expensive or more feature filled because I am on one of the bigger carriers. So fingers crossed that we get some new cool deals.
Yeah, and something that the CEOs of Sprint and T-Mobile pointed out is that this is no longer a for cellular world. There's lots of other companies that are coming together with their own cellular services. Comcast and Charter are two that are sort of poised to be kind of the next big thing. So that also eliminates that sort of anti-competition idea because we're no longer going. The idea being that, if there's 4 major carriers and then that reduces down to 3 major carriers, then there isn't a whole lot of competition. There isn't a lot of choices. But if we're talking about 7 or 8 carriers and Sprint and T-Mobile are lower on that list, then there's less fear of lack of competition and lack of options for users. So I think these are all definitely things that are pointing to the right, it's right place, right time. I think,
Exactly.
yeah, I think it's a good time for them to kind of do something like that, especially if they're going to be able to go forward with the kind of plans they were saying they hope to do, which is to make a stronger cellular network that's available across a wider range of places. And that's nothing but good for people. And
Yeah.
and like you were saying, we'll also push companies like AT&T and Verizon, the two biggest ones, to do a little more work on their end to make sure that they're pleasing their customers and making sure that the rates are competitive.
Make us happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Or we're gonna switch over to the new big player in town.
Yeah. Or slightly smaller player in town.
Yeah, exactly. The
Yeah.
more friendly looking, slightly smaller player in town.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about marzipan. What is marzipan? What is this X kit? I mean, we've heard about this. We've heard about this crossover software. Is this a real thing? Are we actually going to see this?
So according to John Gruber, it's real, but maybe it's not necessarily going to end up as called marzipan when it finally comes. And it's also not supposed to come until 2019. So we're calling it marzipan right now. It's kind of the nickname for it. I think internally that was the name that was leaked that Apple is calling it. So we'll keep calling it that for now. It's being called a cross-platform UI. So when you hear that, your first thought is, oh, it's like Windows 10 on Surface Pro and on PC. No, that's not what Apple's planning on doing. I don't have any evidence of that, but I really doubt that they're planning on making a mobile and desktop platform that's exactly the same between the two. I think what this means is that they are working on ways to make app development work better between your desktop and your mobile device, because right now they're very separate things and they're very difficult to manage on the separate devices. And there are constantly games even and lots of wonderful apps that you can get on your iPhone and iPad and then separately on your Mac. And if there's a user interface that makes all three of those much more compatible and better flowing and using a similar framework so that the developer can do this much faster and easier, that's going to benefit all of us. Some of my favorite apps I love because I can use them on my Mac and I can use them on my iPhone. There are also some apps that I've tried that aren't available on a Mac. I won't even use them. They're just not worth it. They're not. I need that desktop compatibility with my mobile devices too. And so I love the idea that Apple is working on something that's going to make it easier for developers to develop apps and games that we can use cross-platform, that we can access easier, that they can manage easier, that they can make updates to easier, so that we don't have separate updates for the Mac version and the iPhone version that are done at separate times because of the work that they have to put into that makes it more complicated. So
Yeah.
what do you think?
No, I mean, I agree with you. I think, we've seen a lot of apps leave the Mac App Store. A lot of the ones that are there, many of the ones that are there are kind of crummy, to be honest. The ones,
there's some great ones. There's some great ones.
There are some great ones.
They're just not as easy to find.
Exactly. And the ones you like, less apps get featured more frequently because it's hard to sort of find the gems among the crowd. And there's so many awesome, new, exciting, wonderful, great things being created for iOS that would be wonderful to have on macOS. And if we can make, not we, but if Apple can make it easier for those apps to come over to the Mac platform, I am so down. If it just becomes the App Store and it's not the Mac App Store or the iOS App Store, I am so down. I would love to be able to have more apps available on my Mac that I use on my iOS devices, because there are times when I want to be able to use a mouse pointer or a keyboard to be able to get things done, and I can't if I use them on iOS. So I think overall, I agree with you. I don't think that this is seeing things shrink down to iOS size and then you like plug in your iPhone to a monitor and then it becomes Mac OS size. No, it's not that kind of thing. This is just, I think it's more developer focused, but for consumers, it's going to result in a lot of exciting stuff because we will have access to more apps that we use on a platform where there's so much innovation happening. And I mean, many of the innovative apps that I use on my Mac, you got to go to the web to get and download from their sites. And the apps that I use most frequently are not in the Mac App Store. So
yeah, there's a number of things wrong with that too. We know the developers that we can trust, that we can go to their website and download those apps, but the average iPhone or Mac user may not necessarily know which ones are safe, and they might go download directly from a developer, not realizing that they've set some kind of bug or virus into their computer. So yeah, like we don't mind developing or downloading apps directly from a developer because we know which ones are that we can trust. Though if a Mac app developer sent me an email and said, "Hey, we got this great new app," and I've never heard of them, I would skip it because I would be afraid of whether or not that was gonna. Yep, and then that might be a fantastic app that I would not try because they aren't in the App Store. And one of the reasons developers don't like putting things in the Mac App Store is because the difficulty of maintaining it. And the Mac App Store is this just,
and it's difficult to do things like it's difficult to do things like trials and and that's a big thing with Mac apps. Oftentimes, like, you need to know how the app is going to work before you actually get it, and Mac apps tend to be more expensive, and like there are all of these things that sort of can get in the way of getting people using Mac apps. And so if we've got some way to make that easier and make it more exciting too, I'm so down. And I would love, like, I don't know if a dashboard, that old dashboard thing that used to, I mean, it's still there on macOS, but you know what I'm talking about, was replaced with like a place where I could click and launch little iOS apps that I could use just right here on my screen. Oh, that'd be so fun.
That would be really fun. 2011, when the Mac App Store first launched, I was so excited about it. I thought this was the greatest idea, gathering all of the best developers and spotlighting their apps all in one wonderful place. And it just became a black hole. It's difficult to find. It's so much worse than the App Store on iPhone and iPad
Oh
ever
yeah.
was. And the App Store now, it has a much better interface. It is much easier to discover things, but on Mac, it's still terrible. It's the place apps go to die. It makes me sad. So I will wait until 2019 if it means that they're going to completely overhaul the Mac App Store, in addition to creating a user-friendly and developer-friendly cross-platform UI that allows us to have our Mac apps and our iOS apps kind of rotating together. I would wait.
Bring
Because
it on.
yeah, we need a better Mac App Store. It's sad. I don't even like to go there. It just makes me sad.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed that we see that change coming in 2019. But until then, let's go ahead and move on. We have been hearing rumors about a MacBook Air. There were some rumors that maybe it was going to launch at the Apple's education event. That kind of made sense because the MacBook Air is often used, especially in college education. People will buy a MacBook Air. And hearing it being pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. So now the rumor is that we will see it in the fall. Yes.
Yeah. The Worldwide Developer Conference, which is happening the first week in June, I believe,
Yeah,
June 6th through 8th, I believe, is the perfect opportunity to at least kind of hint that something is coming, or tell you, we have something coming. Here's what it looks like. It'll be ready in the fall. But I have a feeling that if this is even something that exists, we're not going to see any information. The fall is the new rumored launch time frame. And again, we're not even sure that it's actually going to happen. But what I'm most excited about is the fact that it might happen, because MacBook Air hasn't seen an update in quite a while now. 2 years, has it been?
I honestly am not sure. I have never, I hate to be this person, but I've never liked the MacBook Air. It was always underpowered for me. And then I also never liked the gross clamshell shape of it. So I sort of ignored it as a device and just thought, nah.
I like that you didn't like the shape of it.
That really does. That plays a huge role. Like the MacBook Pro has this nice, beautiful, it's the same thickness on the front and the back. And the way that they like made it thin, it made it look like a clamshell. And I hated it so much.
Yeah. I won't buy a MacBook Air. I have no reason to have something like that. I have my MacBook Pro, which right now is actually thinner and lighter than the MacBook Air,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. So I don't need that. But I know a lot of people who could benefit from a low cost
Exactly.
computer like the MacBook Air that is not entirely unlike a Chromebook, except for way, 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 way better. So
not entirely unlike, except entirely unlike.
yeah,
it's
missing a few, of the pro features, but it's still a fantastic computer. And definitely
a family member on Mac OS. That is the first option to sort of get them into it. I think it's the least, it can be the least expensive device, the lightest device, and the one most suited for everyday tasks that people complete. If you're not doing a bunch of video editing and photo editing and all that kind of jazz, making Lori kick a turkey in Photoshop, then you can get away with MacBook Air.
Did you see? So I actually went to shortly after our hilarious discussion privately on how much I want to kick big fat birds. I don't really want to, but they have this lovely large round belly that you just imagine they would just indignantly flutter themselves.
Lori thinks every bird is a beach ball, essentially.
Yeah. I was at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, and the place was surrounded by geese. And I sent a picture. No. I sent a picture to our work chat saying, "Watch out, I'm here. These geese are just so close." They need a good
They're
kicking.
calling, right? They're calling. No geese were harmed in the making of any of these jokes, we
Never.
promise. So yeah, that's we'll maybe see a MacBook Air. And when we do, then cool. That's
Yeah.
great. It'll get an update.
Yeah.
Speaking of updates, moving right along, we're running out of time here. I never pronounced this correctly. I don't know if it's Halid or Halid, or I mean, it could be anything. No, it is Halide. It is the very cool. I mean, I love this app. I need to learn how to pronounce it. It is a photography app that is fantastic. It's just got an update, right?
Yes, it did. A few days ago, they updated, adding probably the most awesome thing is you can use the Apple Watch Companion app to frame your shots, which is kind of the most amazing, awesome thing in the world. You set up your phone on a tripod, you walk away from it. You don't have to set a timer. You use your Apple Watch to make sure that it's framed properly, and then you're good to go. You hit the button, and you've taken your beautiful shots with it. That's my favorite part of the update. But it actually has quite a few new updates that comes along with it. A self timer, and lots of privacy options, accessibility features. And the privacy options, you can now remove your metadata, which is, there are surprisingly not very many third-party apps in the App Store that allow you to do this. So this is great, because if you want to post your beautiful, I pronounce it halide.
That's probably how it's pronounced.
Photos to social media, your location tends to be attached to those photos, and you can actually remove that from the raw data with Halide before it even gets uploaded to any social media sites, which is a wonderful privacy feature that, yeah.
I think people
it's really
don't think
good.
about that, that you,
my mom sure doesn't.
potentially sharing your photos on social media could be sharing your location, and many social media sites have a button buried somewhere deep in their system that's just like, every time I upload a photo, strip the location, but that doesn't, you don't necessarily know where that is or how to turn that on. And so apps that make sure that that stuff is not getting shared whenever you're sharing your photos, it's very important. But I love that. I love the Apple Watch feature. I think the normal camera for iOS can do that, and it makes it a lot easier, like whenever you're taking group photos and things like that. So I'm glad that they've added that to their app, and that app continues to get updates all the time. And really, if you're looking for a camera that provides a lot more features than the standard camera app, check out Halide.
And another great feature that was added in version 1.8 of Halide is the voiceover. So they've been pushing for more accessibility features in their photography app, which is, it's always something that kind of gets pushed to the back burner when it comes to developing apps, especially when it comes to photography apps. So it now has support for dynamic and bold type and voiceover support. So, you can kind of use Halide as a means to use voiceover to tell you what button is being currently selected and things like that, which I think is a really positive thing for them to be taken care of right now. And hopefully they do say in their blog that they are working to continue to add more accessibility features in the future. This is just the beginning of what they hope to accomplish, to make a completely accessible photography app for people out there. So that's a nice bonus.
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad that they are focusing on that. That's so important. And there are so many apps that continue to make that a second priority, or not a first priority. And so I'm glad whenever we can get these very popular apps focusing on it, because I think it pushes more people to pay attention to that as well. Let's round things out with a little story about a canary in the coal mine, possibly. The founder of WhatsApp, which of course is the communications app that was purchased by Facebook, that does encryption and is supposed to be, a very good way to be able to communicate with others without having people sort of having an option to peek in on what you're reading. It was, purchased by Facebook, and now the WhatsApp founder is leaving Facebook over privacy concerns, and this is according to the reports, over privacy concerns and continued issues with where WhatsApp was on privacy and security and where Facebook was on privacy and security and data protection and collection. So right after this whole big Facebook, what's it with them getting, Mark Zuckerberg getting hit by Congress and having to have conversations there. Now we see someone who was very concerned and very protective of privacy and user data leaving the company because there were disagreements. So not a great thing, right?
Well, let's talk about the timing of this, right? I believe it happened on May 1st. The CEO, Jan Combe, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, I apologize, officially announced that he was leaving the company. But Zuckerberg also kind of sent a post that said, you did some great work, and I'm sorry that you're leaving. Mm-hmm. Zuckerberg also on May 1st, not very long after the announcement was made, had a keynote at F8, and one of the first things he addressed was this happening, and then he followed up with a lot of positive sounding information about what Facebook is trying to do to protect our privacy. So it's really easy for us to kick a dog while it's down. Is that
yeah, I think that's it. Or is it a horse or is it a dog?
Kick a horse while it's
kick
down.
A goose while it's down if you're Lori.
But I think what's wrong with this story that we're learning right now is that we heard some other information that maybe it had something to do with the privacy issues, but this wasn't from the mouth of either of these people, the CEO of WhatsApp or Facebook. So these are speculations, or they are it's information that comes from sources that won't give their name. Mm-hmm. So as much as we could make those assumptions and believe that it has to do with sort of conflicting disagreements on what is being done with WhatsApp, this isn't the truth. This is information that we may or may not be getting real information about. And I think what I'm seeing now with Facebook, again, we're going to have to wait and see how that works out. But I think they're trying to fix their mistake now.
I do too.
I think they've realized just how bad they let it get, and they realize that we do care about our privacy, and they really are actually going to try to fix their mistake.
I agree with you. I know that's like a weird thing to say for people, who are technologists, but I genuinely do see some changes being made there. And, the motivation behind it may be not wanting the government to regulate them. It may be money. It doesn't matter to me what the motivation behind it is, as long as in practice it becomes safer for us as users. And I do see those changes taking place, and I do see it being a positive thing. And, regardless of whether they are committed to it, I think that the government and Facebook's users are committed to holding them to it. So there's no escape at this point, I think, as long as we sort of keep the pressure on and make sure that they are holding up to the promises that Mark made in his deposition before Congress, or conversation before Congress, and sort of said under oath. And so we're going to see changes made because there's too much focus on the company for there not to be changes made. So I think this is a good thing overall.
I do. And the WhatsApp CEO leaving, I don't think necessarily is any sort of pointing to bad things happening necessarily.
It could be, yeah. It's could be anything, and it could be, as we've talked about, just a holdover, something that was going to happen anyway. But
right, exactly.
Like that. The company has been caught now in any sense, and so this is something that they're going to have to address, and I think that that's going to be a good thing overall. So sorry about, I hope that WhatsApp continues to be a great app for people to use, and the communication and all of that is still strong and steadfast. But ultimately, I think we'll see some improvements on Facebook. Time to head out, Lori?
Yep. I'm still, I'm going to go sit on my front porch and glare at
Sit on
every
your
single,
stoop.
glare at every single delivery driver that goes past and hope that they're
Are
the
you
ones.
Are you my package?
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I want to thank everyone for listening. Thanks so much for tuning in, be it via video or over audio. We love you all for joining us every week. Want to thank Jim Metzendorf for editing the show, for making us sound extra spectacular. We will, of course, be back next week. Of course, Lori will be back next week, no matter what, it seems like. And we adore her for that. We'll be back with more news and hopefully some Oculus Go content. I'm so pumped for that. Have a great rest of your week or weekend whenever you happen to be listening to the show, and we will see you all next time. Oh, wait. I forgot to say, before I say goodbye, of course, we have to let everybody know where we can find each other. So, Lori, where can people find you online?
You can find me at Appaholic, APPAHOLIK on Twitter, and Lori Gill at most other social things.
Excellent. If you are looking for Renee online, you can find him at Renee Ritchie on Twitter and most other things, or you can check out his awesome Vector podcast / video series. If you're looking for Serenity online, you can find her at SETTERN on Twitter and Instagram. Looking for Georgia Dow, that's Georgia_Dow. And if you're looking for me online, you can find me at Micah Sargent on most things, or at chihuahua.coffee, CHIHUA.coffee. And of course, you can find all of us at iMore, where we are writing and reading and working and sometimes twerking. Goodbye, everybody. Have a fantastic rest of your week.
Goodbye.